Hello friends, family and other creatures of the sea, and welcome back to another high level game of StarCraft 2. Today we have Serral versus ByuN here on Curious Minds. ByuN is playing with some weird looking green and Serral playing in the red trunks. So we do see ByuN opening up right now with a bit of a Reaper. Don't think he scouted though. Did not scout, does end up finding the links from the pool first, so a very good start. It's always extremely frustrating for Terran if the Reaper is out of position and the links come in behind the Reaper to try and attack that command center. So nice little start here for the Korean Terran player, who does not get that damage inflicted on his own command center and actually ends up killing 2 links for free. That's a pretty big deal. Serral, of course, making a small cut in his own eco to get that pool first as well. So altogether, definitely the best start, I think, that the ByuN could have hoped for. I mean, he saved the money by not scouting, still managed to get the perfect response against the pool first. That is a pretty admirable early game here. Third CC is already on the way as well, so he's going to be playing single gas for a little longer. We don't see that second gas being taken in the main, or the second gas being taken in the natural. Third base will go down for Serral at this point as well, as he continues spreading his creep. Third queen is popped out in the main at this point. And we'll have to wait and see what Serral's plans are going to be for a follow-up. Recently, we've seen him play some roach builds on him. This map particularly, it is a very difficult map for Zerg to play a pure Lingbane Hydra type of style on. Lingbane Mutai is practically impossible because of the short rush distance as well. There's a very solid push-out positions for the Terran as well. Maybe revolving either around this watchtower or around this high ground area. So yeah, there's just a lot of potential issues here for Zerg. This is a good Terran map. So the Roach Warren indeed will be the tech of choice here for the Finnish Zerg player. It's not super important that ByuN scouts this, but it would be nice. Like an extra bonus basically. Like he's getting his Banshees already, so if this is a Roach attack off of like 2.5 bases, so like 40 drones, 42 drones, I think ByuN will just be fine. If this, however, is going to be a 1-1 type of Roach attack with the Glial Reconstitution later on, then ByuN ideally would know about it. But for now, it seems to actually be some type of early game pressure, more so than going into that type of mid-game attack with the 1-1 Roaches. And honestly, against an early game attack, ByuN is going to be extremely safe. He already has the first Banshee out. He has a bunch of Hellions at home as well. His second Banshee is on the way. So unless these Roaches move across the map completely unspotted and the Banshees decide to fly towards this bottom location, I actually think that this situation is as good as it could have been for ByuN. He just needs to kind of underreact to this, I think. Oh wow, this is kind of sick. I think this was a fake Roach all-in. Except fake Roach all-ins don't work if your opponent doesn't scout it. So now Serral's just going to be slightly out of position with these Roaches. ByuN, well, he's not aware of anything going on. He's like, well, I'm building my barracks. This is going great. A small cut here in the worker count. And he spots the Roaches at this point. I don't think we'll see any response whatsoever here out of ByuN. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. I guess the Banshee stayed home for a little longer than you usually would. Serral is already ready for these Banshees. There is an Overseer over here with the Queens on the third base. There is a Spore per base as well, I believe. I saw 2 Spores go down. Yep. Double Evos are being built right now. Fourth base hasn't started quite yet. You see Serral seeing that there indeed is a command center here. And now Serral needs to start responding to these Banshees. Is he aware where they are? Yep, he seems to be aware. Guess he spotted them before they managed to cloak in time. First worker gets taken out. Second worker perhaps can still be taken out from the gas here on the bottom side. Is a real possibility. The fourth base goes down at around the same time as well. Hellions try to get in, try and deal some damage. It's not quite going to succeed. Instead ends up losing a Hellion there. So the Banshees will now start going to town on this fourth base hatchery. Overall, after the early game, I have to say ByuN just in a bit of a lead here. Fantastic position. Solid worker count already. Serral kind of stuck on this Roach army. I'm not even sure if he can push with this. He doesn't believe he can because he's straight away teching into an infestation pit. That means that the Hydralisk then will be kind of sure to follow here. And then a transition into Lurkers from this point out. is most likely going to be the game plan. Now, what is ByuN going to be doing against this? Second factory seems to be his initial response against this Roche opener. Perhaps want to pump out a little more tanks than he already has. And he's playing with double tech labs as well right now on these barracks and fast Marauder production. I don't really mind that. Might be setting up for some type of timing push. So you actually see Serral. Okay, here we go. Hydralisk then is going to be built, where he also gets 2 infestors. And that was a little bit surprising to me. I had not quite anticipated that yet at this point. This is something that Dark used to do. Just getting 3-4 infestors with some type of Roach Ravager force to make sure that he couldn't die against any type of tank push. These 2 Banshees will occupy the tower for now. Might actually be capable of taking out a Queen here. I think if ByuN micro this properly, yep, we'll end up getting the Queen and will retain control of this watchtower with that as well, making it more difficult for Serral to take this 5th base. I think that's kind of what he's eyeing right now. 8 gases being built, still only 68 workers, right now going up to 72 for Serral. I'm a little bit worried here for the Finnish Zerg player. He is not in a fantastic position. This is a good scan, by the way. This is a very good scan. It gets all the information that he needs. He sees the Hydra then, sees the Lurker then timing, sees that there's a Hive as well. And although the Hive will be finished before the Lurker then, the only thing that really matters is the Lurker then. So right now, ByuN can start counting. He's like, alright, I'm gonna have like 2 more minutes of freedom on the map before Lurkers with Seismic Spines are out. What do I want to do with my 2 minutes? And he kind of has to allot that time in a smart way. Does he want to already start his transition into Ghost? Maybe he prefers actually pushing out right now with a tank push. But is it possible for him to wait for this +2 attack? Probably not. This is a lot of information he just got with that single scan. And we'll see what decisions he makes based on that. But any decision that he does make, even though it might not end up working out, at least it was a very informed decision. Because he had all the information that he could possibly want in order to decide what his path forward was going to be. Sometimes it is, of course, a little bit scary to move out if you're not sure what your opponent is getting, but in this case, ByuN is absolutely in the know. As we do indeed see the Seismic Spines starting, that means that there's about 40 more seconds on the clock for ByuN to do something before those long-range Lurkers come into play, and he decides to use this time wisely. Clear a couple of creep tumors here on the top side of the map, while simultaneously defending his 4th base that he's trying to set up. No extra command centers have been built yet. This seems like a very favorable trade for ByuN, by the way. A little bit of a poor engagement out of Serral. Loses a lot of roaches, ends up losing a couple of infestors as well. At the same time though, these Lurkers moving into position, and despite the full information, it feels like ByuN wasn't completely ready for this yet. There's no Ghost Academy, there's no Liberators either. Very often in this type of scenario, against the initial Lurker push, having 2 Liberators can really change the defensive setup here. Because the first Lurkers often don't compare it yet with Vipers, so they're just alone. And that can be a bit of an issue. This is a good split though. I might end up getting 1 or 2 of these Lurkers before losing everything else. Actually gets every single one of these Lurkers with the low ground army as well. Means there's only 2 Lurkers remaining, or 3 Lurkers remaining that came from the right side. Without adaptive talents, these burrows also take a painfully long time. High ground position once again gets taken here by Serral, and once again is going to get broken right now by ByuN. Single fungal is going to miss, well, the second fungal does hit. As these Lurkers try to run out of the scan range, Infestor gets taken out. And ByuN can't be bothered to scan for single Lurkers right now. Kind of gives up on that endeavor. 5th command center on the way already, which will allow him to scan more. I doubt that's going to be straight away for a 5th base. We now have Liberators on the way. We have our first Ghost coming out as well. And Lurker count for Serral is kind of relaxed at the 9. At 9 Lurkers currently. Not wanting to go up to like 16, 17. Of course, he lost a bunch already as well. Already down 7 Lurkers. Does get into a decent position here. Not that many tanks were in the correct position, and no Liberators once again in this spot. Means that these Lurkers will be capable of trading very well with the Bio army. ByuN actually not entirely in danger of losing this base, but definitely didn't take the optimal trade there. Could have been at least slightly better. I don't think this turret is quite in range, providing vision. Double Liberators might try to take out this Lurker though. Maybe we'll just go in for some type of harassment, also possible. I don't even think that was in range, yeah. Serral's so quick with this, by the way. He sees the Liberator shows up and says, okay, that's it. I'm out of here. ByuN might actually believe that the Lurker right now is already dead. Because he doesn't hear the noise anymore. Like if you shift click the Liberator on top of it, was like, alright, seems like that's been taken care of. But obviously not quite the case yet. Adrenal glands on the way, first Vipers being popped out as well at this point. And, ooh. This is kind of cute, look at that. Doesn't want to move the Lurker either. Single Ravager being sent over. These are just Serral things. Like that's the type of thing you don't see every day. Up, he is going to unburrow it once again. This is a crazy fight. Don't forget that there's a lot of other things also happening right now. We're here to take a look at Serral's point of view. Manages to take it out. Loses the left side base, which was going to be his 7th base. Or at least should lose this left side base here. Still wants to try and defend it and immediately rebuilds it as well. This is a difficult base to take because of this high ground with the tanks. Almost allows you to straight up shoot onto that hatchery. Not quite in range, but it's really, really close. New Lurkers being sent out as well. We'll try to once again start attacking that gas. Wouldn't even mind if it starts going for that tank. Meanwhile, ByuN clearing some creep close by his, what is this, his 3rd and 4th base ramp. Does not want to have to deal with any more creep. Any quick rotations. Of course, the more creep you deny, the slower the rotations are going to be, and that is an important thing as well. Extra command centers being built. One orbital actually will start flying towards his topside position. Surprised that that's an orbital, rather than just a command center for a planetary. So ByuN most likely anticipating Baneling run-bys here. It's not incorrect. I mean, there's Banelings out already. This is a pretty decently sized engagement though. Lots of Banelings moving forward right now, trying to get the connections with the Ghost, are not quite getting it. Tank count has dwindled significantly. There's still 2 tanks in the back. Planetary somewhere over here might actually be useful to stop all of this. Just really kind of reinforce that position. Armory, is that a 2nd armory that's being built right now? I think it might just be. Same time we have the orbital here on the top side. This command center is in the air right now. More Ghost, good snipes, brilliant scans as well, allowing for that snipe range to extend till infinity and beyond. Oh. None of these Banelings really get the connections. There's no Overseer here either with this army. I think that's the real issue right now. These Banelings can just explode into thin air. Well, they could. But it's difficult to hit a lot of Ghosts in that case. Now the Overseers are going to most likely help out and will end up getting these Ghosts. Those do get 1 EMP off on at least one of the Vipers. So that's nice. A little less energy there. Might make it harder for Serral to push into the next position. And for ByuN, in order to play a proper split map, he will need to deny either the 1 o'clock base or the 7 o'clock base. And currently he's not doing, well, either of that. I think the obvious choice here is going to be that left bottom side. If you can deny that a couple of times, I think you're going to be just fine. We have a forward planetary and the orbital as kind of the main base. An interesting setup here. I do like that. Using this planetary kind of as a tool, as an anchor to move towards. None of these Banelings get the connections that they want either. Highly inefficient trades here for Serral. Wants to keep pouncing on this position over and over again, but the problem with this map, and one of the reasons why this map is kind of Terran favored, is because there's not enough bases to truly properly do this. It's difficult to take your opponent's bases, and you can't continuously put on that pressure. The moment you really want to start throwing units away into a planetary or into these 5th and 6th bases, as a Zerg, you start running out of money so quickly. Like, we already see the mining over here on what was this? The 4th base running out, or I guess that was the 3rd base. Then this 4th base is also running out. The natural is practically gone. This bottom side still has well, most of the mineral patches alive. But even here, like, you already need to start paying attention and being kind of careful with that. You don't have infinite money on this map. Now, currently, Serral does have infinite money in the bank, so he's going to go again. This time around, a lot of SCVs are going to get taken out. Infestor, this sharking Infestor, looking for the fungal, might just end up getting it. Is there a neural parasite? There is not. Is there a fungal available here right now? No turrets in this setup make it really difficult for ByuN to properly respond to this. Look at this Infestor here, being sneaky, being hidden next to that command center. Now it's trying to move into position. Is it going to get there? Oi, 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 oi. ByuN not quite seeing the movement of that infestor. Oh, here comes the Nurl, gets the huge EMP off as well. That means that snipes will not be available no more. This will most likely trigger Serral to attack into this position once again. And here we go, Banelings moving in, Lynx, Hydras as well as Vipers. EMP's trying to hit these Vipers as the Banelings start connecting with the Ghost for the first time for real. Not enough tanks are in this position to secure it properly. And I think ByuN, at least for now, needs to give up the dreams of this 5th base, because it is just such a difficult position to hold for him. We have 2 more command centers here that could turn into orbitals. Yes, the army supply for ByuN still looks very solid, still looks very nice, but I am not so sure. I'm not so sure if he can withstand the next wave. Just feels like it's wave after wave after wave. Finally he takes out this bottom side base, but a lot has been mined from it already. Serral has not mined any gas yet, which I think is a mistake. But nonetheless, already decent chunk of minerals gone from that base. And ByuN has not been trading in such a way that he can just give up this bottom side base. He does need a proper split map. He needs to mine as much or close to as much as his opponent, because then like this small difference in the resources lost is actually going to matter. This is such a difficult position to break into Serral. I almost would not recommend it. He is going to commit to it. But these orbital commands are just going to live, and these tanks are just giving the free shots right now. That was a painful fight to watch. Free 2k down the drain. Of course, Serral didn't know that before he attacked into it. Did not have changelings in position. Did not get a scout off of the exact position beforehand. That just makes life really, really difficult. This is an interesting liberator position. Yeah. Straight up just going to unsieges and say, no, that isn't it. That absolutely is not it. Do we still have an infest here? Yep, we do. Another Nurl. And an EMP goes down as well. This time on a small minority of the Ghost. Last time it definitely was the majority of the Ghost that got that EMP. Straight on their face. Single Viper is going to move in. Blinding Cloud will not get cast. We do have a single Abduct, and once again Banelings will move forward, but this time around really not the play, as Serral's kind of getting caught here by ByuN's massive army. So many tanks in position, so many Liberators as well, and without any Blinding Clouds, without any Fungals being hit as well. It just feels extremely difficult for Serral to engage into this position. He is, however, once again mining this bottom side base. We have 5 stimmed Marines running towards that position right now. No matter of fact is available, and Serral starts sending over a big chunk of his army to try and deal with that. Well, to deal with that. There's no try, he's just going to succeed. Tanks on the high ground though, actually, well, he's not going to succeed. These 3 Marines stay alive for now. These tanks on the high ground are super annoying. 23 kills and 31 kills respectively for these tanks. They've definitely been worth their weight in gold. This top side base seems secure. This bottom side also seems somewhat secure. One of the things, by the way, that ByuN seems to be lacking in this game is sensor towers. Yeah, I was going to say, this is a very surprising thing, because it provides so much information if you are a Terran player. I'm surprised that he kind of forwent these sensor towers for so long. Forgone? Forwent, is that past tense of forgone? I think so. I think it counts as a word. This is not a position that Serral can engage into. I think the moment ByuN focuses his attention on this base, this topside base is the target, should be the target here for Serral, and that's indeed what he's going to be doing. But there's still a lot of tanks here. Liberators in position as well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tanks are going to get taken out. Lynx move in towards that orbital command as well. At the same time, Serral is pushing back this army. Good blinding clouds on the high ground. Ghost get rescued. But still, the army supply for ByuN is extremely high, and that is the real issue here. It's nice to continuously be taking out workers, but in the big army trades, it feels like ByuN just gets slightly better trades time and time again. Now, this topside base most likely is not going to end up dying, at least not for now. This Liberator is in position. There's another Liberator in position. I do believe that ByuN needs to start reinforcing that position once again with a couple of these tanks, maybe even with 2 or 3 extra Liberators. ByuN is not in a hurry to take this bottom side base. He's just in a hurry to deny Serral from taking it, because he can take it eventually. He absolutely can. He just does not want to try and defend this very bottom side 6th and his top side 5th at the same time, because that rotation, defensive rotation, is really, really difficult. A couple of scans, like 6 scans going down, wanting to spot where his opponent's army currently is. How many orbitals do we have? We have 8 orbitals, so that allows for basically permanent scanning at this point. That will make life pretty difficult here for Serral. What will not make life difficult for Serral are these 3 ghosts, which are going to be taken out by this Purling Bane army. Another run by setup on the top side, 2 tanks in position, Liberator also in a decent position, but Lings kill stuff really quick with good upgrades. So they will all die eventually, but they might be capable of taking out a bunch of workers here, maybe even both. No, triple? 4, yeah, 3 tanks. No, all 4 of these tanks. My apologies. Thor's being produced at this point as well as the Greater Spire is on the way. Not sure if ByuN is aware of that. Yeah, he did scan it. So he is aware of the Greater Spire. We have 4 more spores as well coming in right now for Serral. So Serral probably wanting to return to a more kind of one fight type of army. So far he's been trying to push his opponent away from the bases, and now I think the focal point of this game is going to be this bottom side base, where Serral wants to focus on one location rather than on quick rotations. And with that type of one location fight, you want Brood Lords, you want Spores, you want Infestors, perhaps you even want a couple of Vipers in here as well, as we see 7 SCVs at a time being rebuilt right now for the Korean Terran player. That's a lot of SCVs. He really wants to start mining that bottom left side base. Definitely requires the gas as well. This is one of the things you should not forget. That the gas is a difficult resource at times for Terran. And he's lost 8.2k gas. This is also why I said I think Serral should have started mining that gas earlier. That almost should be the priority at a new base. Because if a Terran doesn't have gas, what's he going to build? Marines? I mean, those don't do too well with an army like this. Especially if there's any banelings involved whatsoever. Serral is pushing forward right now. Ghost largely out of position. Thor's not quite in the spot where they want to be either. As we have a bit of a ghost flank coming in. But it seems like that ghost flank is actually going to get broken. Serral actually kind of breaking this initial line of defense here. First tanks will be taken out. Now there's still 13 Broodlords in the air. A couple of those will end up getting sniped right now. Actually only 1 dying so far. Two dying. A couple more in very red HP, but these ghosts do not quite get the connections. I think this is 10 brutes remaining. Yep. 3 Broodlords going down, a lot of tanks falling, a bunch of ghosts also biting the dust. So overall actually a pretty decent trade to start with here for Serral, who's going to continue pushing forward with his spores, and now once again wants to take this bottom left side base. And we can kind of see represented in the current banks, in the current supply as well, that Serral has a massive army, Serral has a massive bank, he has just mined more than his opponent, and if Serral gets access to one more base, I don't think that ByuN can actually take cost-efficient fight enough. He doesn't even have gas right now for extra ghosts. There's only 8 ghosts remaining, 20 Marines are out, 12 more on the way. This just means that ByuN is going to have a Marine army. He doesn't have the gas. He's lacking the gas. He simply is lacking the gas. Now there's still a lot of gas over here, but that income is just too slow. And I'm not even sure if he can really contest this base right now. Hatchery once again going down for Serral. Still 55 workers. Would not mind a little more long distance mining. We already see a couple of these workers going. But at this point you know that every other base is going to be mined out. Like, you are going to be capable of mining that. This is an interesting fight right here. A couple of snipes going down on these Brood Lords. EMPs hitting, well, not too much so far. A lot of them actually missing. Fungals hitting time after time. Banelings rolling forward. Do they get the connections with the ghosts that they need? Seems like the answer is yes, as there's no ghost currently remaining. Hydra's moving forward, and the Brood Lords finishing the march of death over here. Thors are going to get surrounded by the Lings, but I think with a fight like this, Serral now in a fantastic position. He still has the creep over here, he still has plenty of infestors. There's no money for a ghost remax. ByuN is at half the supply, while Serral's still with a massive bank as well. Just kind of lacking larva at this point. GG gets called. Serral wins the game as ByuN taps out. That's going to be it for me today. Thanks all so much for watching. I hope you did enjoy this. If you did, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hopefully I'll see all of you next time for a new video. Thank you, and bye bye.